30 years ago, the world of video games was forever changed by the arrival of Myst, a point-and-click puzzle adventure by Cyan Inc. Originally created for the Macintosh, it was quickly ported to PC and became the best-selling computer game of all time, holding the title for close to 10 years. Since then, the game has been ported and remastered and remade countless times, most recently as a VR experience, which I have just completed. So, does Myst still hold up 3 decades later? It depends. Let's talk about it. So if you haven't played the game before, Myst begins by dropping you onto a mysterious abandoned island filled with strange machinery where a plethora of levers, switches, buttons, and knobs await you, and you are on your own to figure it out. Seriously, it's only after clicking around and exploring the island from top to bottom that the player is even able to discover the story's plot. If you're the kind of person that places a high value on linear narrative or require any hand-holding with puzzles, you're probably going to get real frustrated real quick. Pretty much all of Myst's puzzles are divided into 2 stages. Stage 1, figure out what the puzzle is even supposed to be, and Stage 2, figure out how to solve it. Much of Myst is just going from one end of the map to flip a switch, and then backtracking to the other end of the map to see if it did anything, over and over and over again, until you notice some kind of state change. Then you can begin to narrow down what to do next. Depending on the type of gamer that you are, this either sounds like the coolest thing ever, or the most frustrating experience imaginable, and by and large, people either really love Myst, or they really hate it. Those who hate it see it as a purposefully obtuse escape-the-room game with frustrating puzzles that are annoyingly hard to solve, don't meld into the world, and offer little reward than the occasional narrative reveal to a half-baked story. John Walker at Rock Paper Shotgun probably best described this opinion by calling the Myst experience a collection of unexplained levers and dials and wheels and buttons, all of which must be pressed at random in an effort to discern what they might do. There's no direction, no sense to the path, no narrative flow. It's just a great big unlabeled remote control, and you're supposed to feel good about yourself when you work out which buttons change the channel. The kind of brutal cynicism that you really only get from video game journalists. On the other hand, fans of Myst have typically stayed faithful due to the game's memorable aesthetic, and admittedly a certain level of nostalgia. Myst was one of the few games for the Macintosh which surely earned it an early following, but it certainly didn't hit the best-selling mark by pure accident. At the time of release, Myst offered something that was appealing even to non-gamers. While most titles in 1993 were 2D sprite fests focused more on killing enemies and completing levels without dying, Myst was a photoreal, for the time, immersive exploration game, where there was no timer, no enemies trying to squash you, no need for a life counter in the corner of the screen because your character couldn't die. While games like Doom said move and shoot, Myst said stop and think. A game that valued atmosphere over action. Built on HyperCard, a sort of PowerPoint-esque internet precursor, creators Robin and Rand Miller had a makeshift point-and-click adventure engine with rudimentary functionality, things like on-off states for various switches. The game could make limited use of low-resolution video, and the 3D world was really just a cleverly designed set of pre-rendered images, allowing users to click and travel through the 4 cardinal directions. It all seems incredibly simplistic 30 years later, but at the time, no other games looked like this, and when you're in a league of your own, it doesn't take too long to rise to the top. This supercharged slideshow engine wasn't free of flaws, of course. If a particular screen wasn't well framed or happened to be poorly lit, it could lead to frustrating and often confusing gameplay. As a kid, I remember spending way too long on the island before finally figuring out that this sliding door was not opened by having a particular pattern of switches in the correct position, but rather literally just clicking on it to open it. Ugh. Several times throughout the game, I would straight up miss clues in clickable objects because they were hard to see, whereas of course modern games tend to highlight all interactive areas so that there's no confusion. The movement system could also be wonky. Depending on how a particular map's pre-rendered images were framed, the player's visual orientation could get a bit confusing. Wait a minute, am I headed toward the elevator now or away from it? I have no idea. Keeping things mostly spoiler-free, you will eventually find out that to finish the game, you need to collect a series of red or blue pages, and as you progress in the story, you are kept guessing as to which is the right color you need to gather. You can only carry one color at a time, so if you want to grab both colors to play it safe, then you have to revisit a particular set of puzzles and solve them again to snag the other page. This repeated backtracking can be maddening, and is a sign of the limits of the original engine. Myst sparked renewed interest in the puzzle and exploration genre, but as games continued to evolve over the years, the title started showing its age. When 8-bit pre-rendered images became ubiquitous, Cyan remastered the game with a higher color space. When true 3D games became the industry standard, they remade Myst from the ground up, recreating everything in a fully explorable environment. But apart from visual and audio improvements, the core gameplay remained faithful to the original, with no real puzzle changes. And now, 30 years later, I find myself on Myst Island again, in virtual reality, hoping to finally figure out all those pesky puzzles once and for all.
All right, we're here. I can hear some seagulls, I can see some water.
Now, here's the thing. In most people's minds, if you haven't played Myst in a really, really long time, you're thinking, oh yeah, I remember. This is what it was like.
It looked just like this. Yeah.
Well, you should go back and look at those pictures because it did not look like this.
While it's true that the team at Cyan did an amazing job remaking the island in a new engine and staying true to the original aesthetic, I couldn't help but think that after 30 years, a bit of the novelty had definitely worn off. Setting nostalgia aside, there's nothing particularly earth-shattering about these graphics in a modern context, and while functionality has certainly been improved, hey, look, a button for that pesky door. Thanks, guys. Level design itself feels dated, because, I mean, it is. The 3D environment definitely solves a lot of my gripes with the original game. I remember getting super frustrated at this clock tower puzzle because I had to click to look down at the cranks, then click to move them, then click to look back up, but in the remake, I can literally watch the hands move while I'm turning. I definitely enjoyed the tactile nature of using knobs and switches, doing these motions now with my hands instead of clicking and dragging a mouse. The ability to just stop and take the art design in from a full 360-degree perspective was totally awesome, and as endearing as the cheesy video performances were in the original game, the new 3D animated characters are probably for the best. Having said all that, I definitely do see where the hate comes from. Puzzles in Myst are inherently abstract with no real narrative logic behind them. Many of them don't feel like they're part of the world. What storyline the game does offer feels rather surface level. Yes, I know there are novels. I know that Myst lore is deep. This video isn't about that. Most players will get stuck. Not because they're bad at puzzles, but because the game often doesn't telegraph what players are expected to do. I often found myself at my wit's end, finally just looking at an online walkthrough, only to discover that I had just missed a certain button or switch because it didn't look like a button or a switch, or I missed a particular sound cue that offered vague insight into what to do. Generally, anything that I did get stuck on felt like it came from confusion over the game's interface. Still though, the occasional aha moment would make up for it, I think. most of the time. All in all, while I do find Myst's longevity laudable, the fact is that 30 years of innovation in the genre has stretched this game to its limits, and while Cyan is apparently gearing up to now remaster Myst's sequel, Riven, I actually find myself more excited for the development of their new original IP, Firmament, because with any luck, no longer being beholden to decades-old game design decisions will now allow them to innovate and offer a fresh take on what immersive puzzle and exploration games should be. As for Myst, if you're a fan of the original, checking out the updated version is a great nostalgia trip, but if you never played the originals, you should go into it expecting a classic, if antiquated, experience. That's fair, right? The diehards aren't going to be calling for my head, are they? Are they? This video was sponsored by Squarespace. They've got everything you need to make a beautiful website. Start by choosing from one of their stunning customizable templates and then shape it to your specific needs. Let's say you want to start a podcast, but you don't want to have to deal with all of that annoying logistical stuff. Their Audio Blocks feature handles it for you. Maybe you want to build a private community. They offer member areas. Even if you have an idea for a business, they can help you set up your online storefront. You can check it out for free by starting a trial at squarespace.com. If you like the experience, then when you're ready to launch your site in full, head over to squarespace.com/AustinMcConnell to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.